everyone. Hello. Ayan, naririnig niyo naman ako clearly. Hello everyone. Kumusta? Maraming salamat sa inyong partisipasyon sa aming huling Science Hangout ngayong Agosto. I am Ethel, one of the co-founders of Science Chat PH. So our group is #ScienceChatPH on Twitter, and we aim to facilitate conversation between Filipino scientists around the world. With that in mind, we host webinars that talk about different topics that might be of interest to our young Filipino scientists and science enthusiasts. So for today's topic, it is the part 2 of our series on grad school applications and experiences. In the first week of this month, we discussed applying for a master's degree, but for this session, we'll be specifically talking about applying for a PhD degree. While every person's story is different, we hope that our guests today can share some stories that will help those who are considering taking advanced degrees. So the word prospectus is a word used for a formal document that provides detailed information about the thing it describes. As graduate school application season starts, we wanted to provide our fellow #Pinoy scientists resources for available scholarships and opportunities for postgraduate applications in the Philippines and abroad. It is not impossible to try pursuing further education in some of the world's leading institutions without worrying too much about the burden of self-financing your postgraduate education. So without further ado, I now give the mic to our moderator, one of the co-founders of Science Chat PH, BA Racoma. So BA.
Nakamute pala ako. Hi everyone! Hello, thank you Aiko. And ayun nga, as she mentioned, I am BA and I will be your host or moderator for today. So medyo mahaba ang gabi pero we'll try our best, gabi, umaga, or hapon, pero we'll try our best to make it informative and fun. But before we start, just a few ground rules or house rules. The session will run around for about 2 hours. And please turn off your camera and mute your microphone to lessen the bandwidth on the platform and to eliminate unnecessary background noises, except for the speakers, of course. And each speaker will have 7 minutes for their talk. And there will be a sound indicating how much time is left. So 2 minutes and then time's up. Afterwards, a panel type Q&A will follow after all the speakers for each session. So we have 2 sessions finished with their talk. The listeners can ask their questions during the presentation using the chat box or the YouTube live comments. Are we live na ba on YouTube? And then the moderator will randomly pick questions from the chat box, which will be asked to the speaker. And if there are too many questions, in the interest of time, please understand that not all of these questions will be recognized. And this session will be recorded and then shared online. So we are streaming the webinar via our YouTube channel, so Science Chat PH then. And then with the approval of the speakers, presentation materials may also be shared online. And please help us improve our future activities by answering the evaluation form. So in return, we will be sending you an e-certificate for attending this session. Do not forget to follow us on Twitter at ScienceChatPH and use the hashtag ScienceChatPH Prospectus Get Into PhD if you want to share anything about the webinar. And finally, everyone, please let's enjoy and have fun. Now that's out of the way, let me introduce our speakers. So the way this works is we have 2 batches of speakers para hindi tayo dire-diretso and ma-overwhelm. After the first batch of speaker, meron tayong 5-minute break. And then now let's go around the world. Okay, so magsimula tayo sa first batch of speakers natin from Oceania and Asia. May laser pointer ako dito. So somewhere here. First, we have David Garcia. So he's currently doing his PhD in geospatial science at the University of Canterbury in Aotearoa. Did I pronounce that right? David is our resident. Mabilis. Aotearoa. All right, thank you.
Parang Filipino lang. Aotearoa.
Aotearoa. All right, thank you. So David is our resident map maker, and it's highly possible that you have seen his very beautiful maps online. He loves making maps of his home, our home, the Pacific. One of his big aspirations is to support the next generation of geospatial scientists in the Philippines, and that is why he applied for a doctoral degree. His motto is, if the ocean is unsettling, then be the ocean. Then from the same island, so Eda is doing her PhD in zoology while working as a senior demonstration for animal biology in University of Otago, New Zealand. Her scholarship is under a departmental award from the Department of Anatomy in the same institute. As this is not under university scholarship, Adria might be able to provide insights on how she got her grant that funds her studies today. With her love for frogs, she wants to pursue her passion on frog conservation and probably conversation, and that is why she is pursuing her degree. Next, we have Ethel Wagas. She is one of our homegrown scientists, taking up her PhD in marine science at the Marine Science Institute in UP Diliman. She is under the Accelerated Science and Technology Human Resource Development Program, or AST-HRDP, by the Department of Science and Technology. According to Ethel, she loves to eat, so she's always hungry, and she loves to write, and she's always with a pen and paper. A doting mother of a 10-year-old daughter, she is also a self-confessed ecology geek. This is kind of interesting, and maybe she can tell us some stories later, because while she is taking up a PhD in marine science, she gets seasick while doing fieldwork. Next is Sven Paolo Valenzuela, a friend of mine. He is currently a PhD in Sustainability Science PhD in Sustainability Science candidate in the graduate program in Sustainability Science Global Leadership Initiative. The University of Tokyo under the Japanese MEXT scholarship. Ang haba pala nito. An early career researcher, Paolo has been involved in various researches and programs on disasters and climate change in the past 10 years. Despite being a certified C student in college, naglakas siya ng loob mag-apply sa University of Tokyo. So for those who are worried about their grades, Paolo might be able to provide insight and tips. Finally, although he's been living in Japan for 4 years, his Japanese proficiency is still equal to a cactus. And then let's go to Korea. We have Rafael Chu. So Rap is a PhD student and research trainee in Korea Institute of Science and Technology, taking up nanomaterial science and engineering. He is under the University of Science and Technology MEXT Scholarship of Korea, so UST. Pero he is a true blue Katipunero hailing from the Physics and Material Science Engineering departments of Ateneo and UP. So Ateneo, UP, UST. Tama ba? So while taking up his master's degree at Ateneo, Rap meandered across various jobs as a software engineer, patent analyst, and data analyst. Now he is in Korea to learn how to understand K-drama and K-pop songs without subtitles. So siguro marami sa ating nakarelate. So these are our speakers for the first session. All right, ready na ba tayo? David, ready ka na?
Siyempre, hindi.
All right. Kaya mo yan.
Kwento tayo.
Wait, do I stop now? Stop share. Okay, sige David.
Okay. Ito lang, yung mukha ko lang. Nakita niyo ba yung mukha ko? Okay. We're good?
Yes.
Okay,
We're
thank
good.
you very much. Magandang gabi, kamusta and Kiora? Ako po si David, nakatira ngayon sa Christchurch in Aotearoa, also known as New Zealand. Basically, I would just like to share two things, practical things and cheesy things that we should actually regard as practical things. Una sa lahat, nagsimula yung PhD journey ko mula sa UP Diliman, where I graduated with BS Geography. Actually, 10 years ago, I was already hooked into mapping. So somehow, I knew my interests broadly in the general field of map making. And then while teaching there, I already started looking for scholarships. So naghanap na ako ng scholarship, kakasimula ko pa lang na magturo bilang isang instructor sa UP Geography. Nagkataon din na libre yung masters. So nagtuturo sa umaga ng mapping sa geography, sa gabi nag-aral ako ng urban planning. And then gumraduate ako ng 2010, Right after that, naghanap na din ako ng scholarships sa abroad. So I tried an Erasmus scholarship, pero hindi ako natanggap not sa scholarship program. Natanggap ako dun sa degree program, pero hindi ko nakuha yung pera. Anyway, tinuloy ko lang. Kaya nagtagal ako sa diliman ng 4 na taon nagtuturo, nag-aaral sa gabi. Pagkatapos nakuha ko yung lisensya ko sa urban planning habang nakatira sa magical world of Cruz Naligas Heights, kung saan ako nakatira since college. So hanggang 2014, nakatira din ako sa KNL habang nagtuturo sa umaga, nag-aaral sa gabi. And then, dumating yung Super Typhoon Yolanda. So nagkaroon ako ng pagkakataon para mag-volunteer and eventually be absorbed by United Nations sa mga lugar na tinamaan ng Yolanda. Kaya lang, nung pagdating nung trabaho ko doon, maikli yung kontrata. Tigti 3 months lang yung contracts namin. So I thought I couldn't live like this forever, being renewed on 3-month contracts. Mahirap magplano ng buhay sa ganun. So habang nagtatrabaho nun tayo sa disaster stricken zones, nag-a-apply pa rin ako ng scholarships abroad. Tinuloy ko lang. In fact, natanggap ako sa University of Oxford ng 2 beses, noong 2015 at 2016 sa Masters on Urban Development, pero hindi ko nakuha na naman yung scholarship. Anyway, tinuloy ko lang hanggang noong 2016, nag-apply ulit ako this time sa ang tawag sa scholarship ay Chevening Scholarship sa UK, where I got a chance to study a Master in Geospatial Analysis sa University College London. Sobrang last minute na lahat ng yan, muntik ko pang hindi makuha yung admission kasi hindi daw sapat yung degrees ko sa Pilipinas. Buti na lang sabi nung head ng program, dahil meron kang work experience sa UN, etc., I'll make a case for you. Tapos na paraanan nila, tinanggap ako sa program. Sinabi ko din, may funding naman ako, so I suppose that helped. Pero the story doesn't end there. Habang nag-aaral ako noon sa London, nagtatrabaho din ako ng part-time, 20 hours a week sa LSE, sa London School of Economics, sa isang mapping project for their book about global urbanism. Kasi mahal yung renta sa London, pati nag-iipon na din ako for my next move in life. Habang nandun ako, kakasimula ko pa lang sa UK. So for example, Friday, tinapos ko yung trabaho ko sa UN office. Saturday, sumakay ako Friday ng gabi, naging pake ako. Saturday, lumipad ako ng London. Sunday, dumating ako doon. Monday, diretso sa klase. Soon after that, naghanap na ako ng PhD scholarships. So marami ding, siguro 5 yun, tas puro no, or hindi ka kasi UK citizen, hindi ka EU citizen. Hanggang one day, mga few months later, February 2017, tumawag yung professor dito, to my professor here, naghahanap ng student like me. Long story short, natanggap ko siya. And then, hindi pa nagtatapos dun yung storya. So umuwi ako sa Pilipinas, condition ng UK scholarship. While waiting for the visa, nagtrabaho naman ako this time sa Marawi dahil sa siege. So kinamit ko ng pagkakataon para sa bayan, makapaglingkod ulit, makapagbalik, pati mag-ipon na din for my next move in life. So that took about, I suppose, 6 months. At the same time, nagtatrabaho din ako nun sa thinking machine sa yung data science company sa Taguig ng Lunes, tapos lilipad ako sa Marawi ng Tuesday, pabalik ako ng Friday, maglalaba ako ng Saturday, tapos balik na naman, etc. So basically what I've been trying to say is 10-year journey ito that got me here as a third-year PhD candidate, and it's not a straight line. I had to juggle many responsibilities. So if you look at my CV, for example, it's a patchwork of gigs, turo dito, aral doon, racket dyan, lisensya dito, tuloy-tuloy siya. Which brings me to my final point na while we have to, hustle sometimes and also really look for opportunities all the time and keep trying, I think it's also important na alagaan din natin yung sarili natin, because I realized over the past 10 years that I forgot to take care of my mental health. So now I'm talking to a therapist kasi apparently I developed a condition called a post-traumatic syndrome disorder throughout all of that shabang. Yung trabaho ka, sa gera ka, Yolanda, at the same time, naghahanap ng scholarship, etc. So I suppose that's my final advice na it's important to drive towards our ambition, whether para sa sarili, para sa pamilya, para sa bayan. But at the same time, please be there for yourself too. And that's all.
Alright, salamat David. Napaka ano. So mahirap pala talaga mag-PhD, ano? uh, uh, well, anyway, we can move on to our next speaker. Adria, ready ka na?
Yes.
Alright, ayan.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm going to share my screen.
Sure.
Can you see my screen? Let me just
Ayan,
oh, wait, exploring. Okay, just changing some settings. Okay. Is good?
Okay, okay na.
Okay, yeah. So, kia ora, kumusta? Hi, I'm Adria, and I'm going to share my experience on how I have my hashtag Road to PhD here in New Zealand. Right, So, just a brief history. I started looking for a PhD back in 2017, and it took me almost a year to process everything. And yeah, officially in September 2018, I got enrolled and started my journey. So I'm going to share some of the tips based on how I got to the program and where I am right now. So I'm from, just go back to the first slide. Yeah, so I'm from the University of Otago. I'm studying zoology. And in pursuing PhD, this is not something that you just want to get because you want to have a degree. It is something that you want to do because you're passionate about something. And as for myself, that's tip number one: know what you want to do. Know your passion. And ever since I've been wanting to study frogs, and I set a deal to myself that there are only two things if I want to study. And first, it should be anything about frog. And second, it should be abroad. Because knowing the system in the Philippines, I want to explore other countries, and this is a perfect opportunity. So with regards to the frog, I got inspiration from Dr. Arvin Diasmas, from my former boss. And, oh, sorry. Yep. And in terms of this study, I'm looking at a fungal disease on frogs that is causing extinction in some species. So what I'm focusing now is I'm looking at the microbiome of these frogs and looking at the effect of their microbiome in response to the infection. So there is a New Zealand frog over here. Yep. Yeah, so next thing is, once you know what you want to do, next step is to reach out and inquire. So what I'm trying to say here is send letter of intent to different people. So I actually sent emails to different people, like these are authors of the journals that I've been reading before, or like people that I've been collaborating before. And I receive a lot of no's. Yeah, it's either they don't have a project or they're not open for a new student. And some of them will also give you some advice, refer you to people who you can talk to. Until one time when I'm almost giving up, December 12, 2017, I think I've covered all the continents except New Zealand. So all countries. And then I look at the frog expert in New Zealand, and there's only one name, Dr. Phil Bishop. So I sent him a message, and in my message, I already indicate my background, what I want to study. And I want to focus on microbiology and molecular, but it's not his expertise. So what he did, he looked for a co-supervisor by the name Dr. Joe Stanton. So these are my supervisor, got Phil Bishop here and Joe Stanton. Joe Stanton played a major role in my scholarship because this is not a common scholarship. I didn't get the university scholarship. So I told my supervisor that I cannot go because I need at least 1.2 million a year for the tuition fee and the stipend. So what my co-supervisor did is she converted her grant support for my tuition fee and stipend for 36 months. Without that, I don't think I can go to New Zealand. Yeah. So once you already have settled, you have a supervisor, you know what you want to study next is what to do in terms of admission. So ask for help. And for me, actually, it's free. I get the help from, so the university's website will show you what are the requirements that you need to submit. We can also give you some ideas what to do when you get to the program. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with IDP. They are the one who's offering IELTS, but at the same time, they are also an education provider. So Miss Alma Galvez here is my education specialist, and IDP helped me a lot in terms of translating my credentials. So instead of submitting my credentials directly to the university, it's through IDP. So I sent everything to them, and they also give professional advices, like what are the things you need to secure, what are the things you need to support, and also in terms of visa processing, I don't even know where the embassy of New Zealand in Philippines, because they process everything. I just give all the requirements to them and they transfer that to the university or to the visa processing. So if you know more about the IDP, I would suggest, I left the email address of Miss Alma here. You can also go to their website. They're also offering help not just in Australia and New Zealand, they also offer help, I think, in UK, US, and Canada. Yeah, so it seems like everything is settled, like you've submitted your requirements. Next thing that I think I want to share is, yeah, everything might be ready except you. So make sure that you prepare yourself, prepare in terms of like 100% ready. We're in from a family gathering, physically being present with your family to a virtual family reunion. Especially for those who are studying abroad, this is something that you have to make sure you're ready to face. It's difficult, yeah. And something that I want to share as well is that two days before my flight, I felt all the anxiety, all the sadness that this is it, I'm leaving, and I felt that I'm not ready. So what I did, I actually rebooked my ticket and for 1 week, and that 1 week actually prepared me physically and emotionally. So on the it was actually August 29th, tomorrow, when I left the Philippines. So yeah, tomorrow is actually my second year anniversary here in New Zealand. Yeah, and that 1 week prepared me to face the new challenges. So I didn't experience the homesickness, not that much, because I have prepared myself for this. And yeah, so that 1 week allowed me to feel all the excitement. And that's my last tip. Like, feel the excitement. Look at the positive side. You're going to a new journey. You're facing a different place. And just want to share this. This is a world map in our department. And that's the Philippines. See that pin? That's me. Yeah, so there's only one Filipino in this department. And yeah, I've been there for 2 years now. There's a new one coming. But yeah, and since I'm in a beautiful country, I'm in New Zealand, what other things you can do? Of course, yeah, I did try skiing, explore spring, autumn, all the things that I cannot see in the Philippines, and also enjoy the laboratory facilities that they have as compared to us that we have in the Philippines. So that's all. Time is almost time. Yeah, so that's all for my journey. If you now want to know more or ask questions, I suggest you go to my Facebook. I'm not active in Twitter or Instagram, but yeah. So that's all. Thank you, and hope you learned something from this.
All right, thank you very much, Ada. Adria, so meron tayong 5 tips. 1 is to know your passion. 2 is to inquire. 3 is to ask for help. And then 4, prepare yourself. And finally, feel the excitement. Adria is one special case kasi not all people know that you can take a PhD not through a scholarship, through a grant, right? And basically, they treat you as an employee. So that's why they pay you to study. Is that correct? Ayun.
Sort of.
So, sort of. So that's an option for others kung hindi tayo matanggap sa scholarship. So anyway, thank you, Adria, again. So next speaker is Ethel. Ethel, are you ready?
Yes. Let me share my screen.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Can you see it?
Yes po. Mhm.
Okay na ba?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. So ako si Ethel, and I am a student from the Marine Science Institute. And I am taking a PhD in marine science. And currently, I am working on coral reefs, stable isotope analysis of coral reefs. No? So what I would like to, I'm sorry. Okay, there you go. what I would like to share with you is my experiences on how it is to apply for PhD and scholarship dito sa Pilipinas. So I am under the DOST AST-HRDP NSC scholarship program. So that means Accelerated Science and Technology Human Resource Development Program. So I just want to tell you first na DOST actually has a number of different programs that they offer for scholarship. So it's not just AST-HRDP. So if you go to their website, you can actually find several programs there, and it's catered towards different fields of study. So as you can see there in the screen, may programs that are focusing on science and math education, engineering, and so on and so forth. So if you are interested, it would be good to go to the website and look at what programs fit you best. So I am one of the reasons why I was attracted to the DOST scholarship, no, aside from the usual advantages and perks like the grants and the stipend, the free tuition and all, is this is the research enhancement program. Kasi si DOST gives opportunity to its scholars to actually study abroad for a limited period of time. So currently I am still in my dissertation proposal stage, so I have not reached this stage yet. So what I did was I asked some friends who already enrolled and was admitted to this program, and those two guys there, that's Tina and Dexter, I want to share their story with you. So these are also DOST scholars, and they were funded by DOST to go to Switzerland and Germany. I think they spent mga 3 to 4 months there to do work. So what DOST does is that if there is may expertise or equipment that you cannot find here in the country, for you to be able to do your dissertation work, you can actually collaborate with other institutions outside of the country, and they can fund you for it. So it doesn't mean that if you are a government scholar or you are a DOST scholar, you are just kept inside the country. You also have the opportunity to go outside, and that's one of the things that attracted me to this program. Now, for one of my practical tips for PhD application, again, I am enrolled in the Marine Science Institute. So most of the time, they are going to ask you what you will be wanting to work on. So I highly advise you that before you apply, dapat you have something in mind already. But don't be scared, kasi when I applied, yung proposal, they asked me for a capsule proposal kasi, and when they asked me for that, the study that I presented to them was actually very, very different from what I am working on now. So I think what they just want to see is that how good are you in like forming your study, the scientific questions, and your experimental designs and such. But it would be a good idea na, for me, I wanted to work on coral reefs, and that's like a general direction for my study already. Aside from that, the previous speakers also mentioned about this also, not to reach out for possible mentors. In UP Diliman, it's very flexible. No? In the life sciences, we have Institute of Biology, we have MSI, we have IESM, and there are a lot of professors that are specializing on different fields of study. So they are also very kind. So before you apply, you can, as early as now, you can start reaching out to them and telling them your intentions and what you want to work on. And most of the time, these people are usually very entertaining. And if ever they are not able to enroll you sa lab nila, most of the time they would refer you to people who would be willing and open to mentor you. And then finally, I highly advise you to do your homework and make a timeline. Kasi when I was interviewed, I was asked for my timeline, and it would, if you want to impress your yung mga panelists or those who are interviewing you, it would be good that to show them already na ano yung plan mo to finish the program and all. Okay, so for scholarship applications naman, as I mentioned a while ago, different programs have different priority areas for dissertation work. So I would highly suggest na you go there and you look at ano yung mga priority areas ng scholarship program nyo, so that would give you a better chance of getting the scholarship grant. And the second is to know if your institute that you are planning to apply to is under they have what they call as the NSC, So that's the National Science Consortium. It's a list of schools that DOST is giving slots for scholarship to. So it would be highly ideal na the school that you're enrolling in is also a member of the NSC. And finally, be mindful of deadlines, because this happened to me. If you go to the DOST website, they accept students in the second semester and in the first semester. So I applied sa MSI in the second semester, and lo and behold, hindi pala sila nag-a-accept ng enrollees. So that set me back to another 6 months, and I had to find something else to do. So it would be good for you to be mindful of those kinds of deadlines. And finally, create a financial safety net. Kasi for those of you who have experienced DOST scholarships sa mga MS times nila, you would know that stipends do not really come on time all the time. So for my close friends that are coming here, especially from outside of Manila, I always tell them to have something extra so you can use it while your stipend or your financial assistance hasn't arrived yet. So after that, the waiting game. Actually, it took me 6 years to finally decide on applying a PhD. I graduated from my MS in 2012, and I got into my PhD in 2018, and that's a good 6 years. On 2017, when I finally applied to MSI and I was turned down, I was really disappointed. And then suddenly a job came, and I was invited to be one of the lead organizers of this Asia Pacific Coral Reef Symposium. I was really, really disappointed, but I was grateful for this work, because this conference, kasi they were able to gather different scientists, marine scientists all over the world. And this is where I met someone, a professor from the University of Tel Aviv, who later introduced me to someone who is now my mentor for my dissertation work. So what I'm trying to say is that whenever things do not come your way, don't be too hard on yourself, because sometimes these detours or these delays can actually put you at the right places or let you meet the right people that will eventually help you in your PhD journey. So that's about it. I hope you learned something from what I'm sharing to you today or tonight. And thank you so much.
Right, maraming salamat, Ethel. Gusto ko yung tip na both make a timeline and be mindful of deadlines, especially once you start PhD, kasi it's basically you're making your own projects. So you have to make your own timeline, both ng deadlines to apply the PhD and then timeline how you're doing your research project. So yung kinakatakutan kong chart actually yung Gantt chart. Pero kailangan natin gumawa ng ganon. Ayan, thank you very much for your So next naman po, si Paolo Valenzuela. Ven ba o Paolo? Tagal-tagal na kitang tinatawag na Ven.
Either. Yung mga kaibigan ko sa college, they either call me Paolo or Ven. So I prefer Paolo usually, especially dito. Yeah, I'll just share my screen. Yeah, okay. Anong nakikita niyong screen? Teka, ako yung
Has started screen sharing. Ayan, okay na. Sorry.
Ang nisip ko, baka, nakita ko kasi slide yung paper ko. So, teka, nalito ako. Is this what screen do you see?
Nakikita ko si Nani PhD.
Okay, great. Yeah, so that's the title of my presentation. Di ko rin kasi akalain initially that I would do a PhD. So I'd like to introduce myself. So basically, I graduated from UP Baguio. I had a social sciences background. It took me 5 years to finish a 4-year course. But eventually, I actually did some work on disasters and climate change. Parehas kami ni David, one of our key introduction to actually big research work is actually Typhoon Haiyan. Dito ko nakilala yung sensei ko, and for the past 3 years before I entered the University of Tokyo, he has been asking me to actually apply. Eventually, I got over yung aking shit, kaya ko bang pumasok dito? Kaya ko bang because we have the mindset na kapag mababa yung grades mo, hindi mahirap makapasok. Eventually, I tried to apply and I got in with a scholarship, with the MEXT scholarship. So this scholarship is something you could extend towards your PhD. So I got in the master's program, and had it extended to cover my PhD, which is now I'm in my third year of my PhD, so I should be graduating next year in around July. Coming mga PhD students, we love to talk about our topics. So we can spend almost all of the hours just to talk. So I'll just talk about my specializations, which is basically disaster risk reduction and climate change. I referee for international journals as well. So if you have any questions about peer review, you could actually just shoot me a question. Okay, let's talk about the scholarship. I'll just be frank on how much I get and how much is covered, just to give you an idea. So for a PhD, it's 147,000 for me, but they changed it to 148,000 now. Tuition fee is covered by the university, so you don't have any problem with it. As I said, it can be covered, extended to cover your PhD. There's a round trip economy ticket once you come in and when you graduate. You could work, and this is one of the weird things about the MEXT scholarship is that there's no return of service clause. There are two types. It's the university recommendation and embassy recommendation. They're quite similar, but the process is quite different. What I do have is the university recommendation, which basically I apply directly to the university. Sa embassy, you apply directly to the embassy. Apply sa embassy, contact the university, something like that. Let's skip over that as well. So for requirements, medyo may age limit. So you need to be below 35 at the start of the application. And these are some of the details. You could look at it in the embassy website at the same time to the university that you want to apply to. For the University of Tokyo, you need to check the university in terms of nationality of applicants kasi naglagay na sila ng quota. I think that's just for this year. I'm not sure if they will retain this next time. So I'd like to talk about my journey. So basically, as what everybody has been said, more than a year before, or at least a year before, look for your desired program, yes. But the most important here is contact your potential supervisor. Supervisor is key in the PhD process. And then you have to prepare your proposal. 6 months before, dapat nandyan na, pulido na. You could have sent it to your potential advisor for checking. By August, this will be the last chance. Dito sa Japan, pag umapak ng September, hindi na sila po pwedeng mag-reply to any potential candidate. And then you need to submit on the on the deadline. Dapat ma-receive nila to by the end of November. By early January, you'll get the first screening results, and then late January, you'll have an interview. In February, you'll get like a congratulations kung natanggap ka. If not, they will actually inform you what you could do as well. By March, you'll submit another recommendation letter. And by September, well, you'll be flying to Japan. Here's the catch. I entered through master's, but I understand now how hard it is actually to enter directly into PhD in Japan. And here are some tips to actually maximize your chance for success. I've seen a lot of candidates coming in and go. So if you plan to enter directly to the PhD program, contact and engage your prospective supervisor. That fits well with your research proposal. I think the biggest problem that I see, yung candidates, they tend to look for the degree program. But in reality, it's actually the supervisor. Kailangan fit kayo sa specialization niya. This is a hard one. You have to have a master's thesis or a published research in a journal. Having both is an edge. Having more is a distinct advantage. Maraming internal candidates or external candidates. So may quota kasi yung scholarship and they prioritize internal candidates. But it's not impossible. Maraming na internal candidates na ipchapwera because there's a very good external candidate. Finally, I think this is the weird thing. Consider entering from master's. The reality of the PhD is that it's 5 to 7 years. But yung scholarship, it only covers 3 years. So entering straight to PhD, well, medyo problematic siya. Kasi mas marami siyang requirements. So why not be an internal candidate? Kasi ang master's dito sa Japan kind of really chill. And you get to know your sensei more. You could start your topic earlier. And it's actually easier to get into the PhD. And it's all covered by the MEXT scholarship. So you got in. And I think David talked about mental health. So before the PhD experience, you laugh at PhD comics or memes. But when you go through it, you'll realize everything is true and then some. So the main message here is to take care of your mental health. And this is actually an important tip. Na hindi ko alam nung nag-enter ako. So first is the most important lesson. The PhD is all about humility. It's being humble. You need to understand you should be Jon Snow, meaning you know nothing. a lot will change in your research from what you originally proposed, and there will be a lot of setbacks. Learn that you're at a dead end. More important, be open to critiques and new ideas. Second is enjoy your happiness circle. Challenging ang PhD. Sa tingin mo, suspended yung nangyayari sa buhay mo kasi everybody around you is like kinakasal, marami nang napopromote, and sometimes you will need a person to rant to. It's okay. It happens. Generating new knowledge will be tough and rigorous. Remember to know when to take a break. Finally, the main product of the PhD is not your dissertation, is not your research. It is actually you. You will learn your habits, your thought processes, your strengths, weaknesses, and most of all, you will learn to realize that your research is minuscule compared to what you actually do not know. And this is the lesson of the PhD. So is this all worth it? Here's some pictures of like some of my field activities and in places that I've never realized that I would be. I did like coastal engineering research in Chile. I'm like with some of my lab members here, and we're trying to look at a desert na pwedeng tamaan ng tsunami. And on the other hand, we went to Kwakwa in South Africa just last March, and to understand a place na maraming tubig pero wala silang tubig ngayon. Funny thing, this picture on the lower right, that's my team in Kwakwa. May Hapon, may Americano, may Spanish. So basically, that's the Philippine history right in one picture. Anyway, but the most important experience that I had is actually back at home, wherein we actually did a huge research in climate change. We were able to publish in Nature Climate Change, and it's one of the questioning researches that we do right now. So actually very interesting ito. It's worth it if you are able to do the struggle. And last words ko siguro is that sometimes people tend to look at our grades, but at the PhD level, it's no longer an issue. What we want to see, what your supervisors want to see is your drive, your focus, and your determination to actually contribute to new knowledge. So that's it. Ariga, thanks. And these are my details. So if you have any questions, just send me an email. Thanks.
Ariga, thanks, Paolo. So, wait lang. From your talk, tama ba? PhD is generating new knowledge, pero the product is you. So you take care of yourself. In terms of, di ba na-mention mo na your grades are low, pero you got into a PhD. Tama ba pagkaintindi ko na para makakuha ka ng PhD scholarship, when your grades are low, you have to make sure that you are active research.
Yeah.
Either thesis.
Either thesis or even your drive to actually for new knowledge. So yeah.
All right. Sige. Maraming salamat. And if may questions tayo, you can ask sa Q&A ha. And to our speakers, pwede nyo rin sagutin via chat kasi mamaya baka dumaming questions. Okay, for our next speaker, thank you, Paolo, again. Rap, are you ready? Bago tayo masunog dito. Ayan, all right.
I'm sharing my screen.
Yeah, okay na.
Okay, so I'll start. So hello everyone, I'm Rapchu, and I'll talk about, I'm first year student pa lang ako, PhD student, so I'll talk more about my application process to Korea UST. So, you love K-pop, you love K-drama, or amazed lang kayo sa response ng Korea sa COVID-19. So you want to go to Korea, what are your options? The first is the Korean government scholarship. You can watch the previous video ng Science Chat PH for more details. A second option is to apply directly to the university. A third option is to contact the different professors directly and look for possible availability ng project funding. And the fourth option, which I'll talk about, is via National Research Institute via UST. Of course, there are also options, routes using DOST scholarship, some organizations, and maybe self-funded kung may pera kayo. So what's UST? UST, hindi siya Santo Tomas. It's the University of Science and Technology. It's an umbrella university that enables you to study at different institutes in Korea. So think of it as you want to study in PHIVOLCS or Pag-asa. So in Korea, may mga institute like the Ocean Institute in Busan, the Biotechnology, Space Institute, Atomic Energy. So you want to study there in the institute. So, but they're not universities, and you can enroll in UST so that you can do research there. And for me, the number one selling point ng UST is providing financial stability without compromising research quality. Because I took a survey of all the scholarship, PhD scholarships sa Korea, and di hamak na yung UST, yun yung pinakamataas yung minimum scholarship na binibigay. For GKS, they provide 1 million for scholarship PhD. It's enough to travel a little bit, to splurge a little bit. But for UST, we have 1.6. And also we have a worker status. So may VL ako, may SL ako, I have labor rights, I have health insurance, and etc. So now you decided gusto mo mag-UST. Here's a snapshot of the process that I went through last fall 2019. And then ito naman, the right is the, nakikita nyo ba? Can I hide this? I hide, okay. So sa right naman is the process for the next round. So basically you have 19 days if you want to apply to the next round of application. So it's not yet too late. Kaya pa natin to. And here's the link for the UST admission information. So isa-isahin ko lang ng konti. Next. So here, first is the online application phase. Everything is online, pati yung recommendation online. There's an essay question, which is important for the administrator, and it's also important for the potential PI, because you can apply even if wala ka pang wala ka pang supervisor. And my PI said na he reads the essays to gauge the potential candidates' English proficiency, to look at the research motivations, the research plans. This is also the phase where I had to decide saan ko ba gusto mag-research. Do I want to research in Busan, in Daejeon, or in Seoul? Of course, I chose Seoul kasi mas masaya sa Seoul. And you can choose which institute you want. Do you want to do chemistry in the material science or in the biosciences or in the telecommunication, mga ganun. And I have a tip, I have advice on the documents. Consider your college late document provision because MUP, yung mga 10 working days mo na nagiging 1 month. You also need to familiarize yourself with yung mga documents like apostille, like NBA, and consider getting a SPA kasi baka nasa Korea ka na but the requirements hindi mo patapos. So you need some SPA para yung kapatid mo yung mag-process. The next phase is waiting for the first screening process. This is the phase where I proactively emailed different supervisors. So my suggestion, like all of them, is mag-email ka na maraming supervisor. Parang Tinder lang yan, di ba? You mag-swipe right ka to 1,000 and then hope na may isang mag-like back sa'yo. And this is also the stage where may mga professors na nag-reach out to me, like, hey, Raf, I'm interested in taking you as a PhD student. Here's my 5-page CV. Are you interested in working with me? And siguro one of the biggest advice I should say is choosing the right mentor is one of the most important thing because it's going to be 3 to 6 years of your life. And perhaps he or she is going to be your lifetime friend. And some of us gusto natin mag-lab because research lang iisipin ko. And then gusto ko mag-lab dito because nagsusuka sila ng nature or science papers. But what if slave worker yung boss mo? And what if slave working yung mga seniors mo? And then puro wala marunong mag-English sa lab mates mo. So you have to choose well. You have to stock your lab well. The social dimensions can sometimes outweigh the science and research experience. So I found out that I passed in April 30. Next. So online interview. In the online interview, I had to make a PowerPoint and then there were 2 professors and you have to remember that the people interviewing you are scientists, not businessmen. So you need to answer in a way that scientists will appreciate. And they ask me about why I want to do this research, what's my plan after PhD, and then they asked me, bakit may D ka dito? Bakit may F ka dito? So yeah, I had some very low grades. I have high grades and I have very low grades and nakapasa pa rin naman ako. And finally, I passed June 4 and I had 10 days to decide if papasok ba ako or hindi. And after that, a week after, I decided na mag-resign na ako sa Paymaya because, safety net. Kailangan din natin yung pera. And by July 28, I arrived in Korea and then I had a 1-month training na libre yung pagkain, libre yung accommodation, and then meron ding stipend. And while waiting, my suggestion is to brush up on your computer skills. Important pa rin to hone your Excel skills, your programming skills, yung simulation, and then creating very fancy diagrams. These are small things na pwede mong i-practice on your own. And it'll also help to review on the fundamentals and ask your PI kung meron ka bang readings that I can start reading. And finally, language skills. Learn Korean while watching K-drama, listening to K-pop, because it's still better if you learn Korean because everybody speaks in Korean. And that's it.
Alright. Maraming salamat. Yung gusto kong tip na chinare ni Rap is parang Tinder lang yan. So, you have to present yourself. Tama ba? Gagawa ka ng profile mo, your essay, or your research proposal, or your statement of research interest. So basically, when you're applying for PhD, you present yourself to these potential supervisors, kilalanin niyo sila, and then hope na magustuhan ka rin nila. So anyway, so yun na yung first session natin, tama ba? Wait lang, tingnan lang ko. Tama. Alright, so Pierce, andiyan ka ba, Pierce? Pierce?
Yes, DA.
Ayan, Q&A na tayo. Dapat pala
Okay,
shinare ko
so
screen ko.
thank you all for the speakers. I hope everyone had a great time. So we will now have a quick Q&A session. We can start with a question from Raven Vico. So currently an enrolled graduate program at the same time working as a full-time junior high school teacher. I would like to know about some tips on how to balance academic and work life. Thank you very much. Maybe this question can be addressed to all our speakers. We can start with Adria, I guess.
For actually full-time PhD student ako, but then financially aspect, I need to work part-time. That's why I'm a senior demonstrator for animal biology. I usually set my weekdays for work. So kaya naman siya. I try to manage na the time that I spend for working outside my PhD, I cover it with my PhD time. And then I usually spend weekends to myself. Kung kaya na hindi ako mag-lab, I usually give my weekend to myself, like explore New Zealand, go on long walks, and time for myself. Yeah.
Great. Other speakers, do you want to share your insights?
Ako, in-address ni Raven, yung question to me. Mahirap siya. Actually, it's very hard to balance yung, lalo na kung gusto mo talagang makuha yung scholarship. For example, in my case, I had to sacrifice so many things. On the other hand, I will tell my younger self, like I put in the chat, na sana yung budgeting nung time nag-iiba yan depending sa season. Sometimes you have to study more, sometimes you have to work more, etc., earn more. But I suppose what I could have done better is to take care of my relationships. Let's say sa pamilya ko, sa mga kaibigan ko, etc. Because looking back, I think siguro mas maayos pa ako na PhD student kung stable or kahit pa paano healthy yung relationships ko with the people I care about. So I suppose that's my celebrity answer. Na take care of your relationships, especially pati yung relationship mo din with yourself. It's important na alagaan mo yung sarili mo, and also try to not think of PhD every once in a while kapag nakuha mo na siya, yung magluto ka sa gabi, maggitara ka, yung mga ganong kasimpleng mali na bagay, manood ka ng paglubog ng araw, yung mga ganong bagay. Mahalaga din yan.
Pwede rin ba akong magdagdag? Hindi pala ako speaker. Well, actually kasi PhD is a very isolating experience. Tulad lang din ng masters. And ayun nga, as David mentioned, i-keep mo talaga yung relationships mo alive with your family, with your friends. Kasi kung mag-isa ka lang talaga, mababaliw ka. Lalo na pag nasa ibang bansa ka. Hello, friends. So buti na lang meron ngayong Skype, Zoom, Viber, and we can talk to our to everyone.
I'd like to
Let me
say
say,
something
okay.
also. For me kasi it's very important for us to guard our mental health, especially for not just for PhD but for everyone in grad school. Kasi like for example, the quality of our mental health will eventually affect the output of whatever we are writing or the work that we are doing. And when we were young, diba, we are very on fire, very ano tayo to really make something out of our career. But later on, when we are at the PhD stages of our life and we now feel the tolls of the mental health issues natin, and then we realize that how important it is na for our world to not just revolve around PhD, but there are other equally important things that we need to spend time on. Yan.
I want to say two things. Una, it depends on field to field. There are certain research areas na mas demanding on time, like yung mga hands-on chemistry, biology. They demand more of your time. And there are other research field na okay lang na 8 hours. My PI tries to make me work 9 to 5, but I'm also guilty din ako sa overworking. But the second thing I want to say is to keep yourself grounded, tethered outside. And sometimes when you're lonely, when you feel na useless na itong ginagawa, when you talk to others, when you communicate your research to non-scientists, parang you relit the fire para mas naging exciting ulit when you talk to other people. You keep yourself grounded. Find yourself a girlfriend.
All right.
Speaking of, pwede magsabi ng
Cool.
isa about yung the personal things. Yung, di ba inisip natin when we make plans, okay, step 1, step 2, step 3, tapos life happens very completely differently katulad ng sinabi ni Ethel. Gusto ko yung sinabi niya na ito yung plano ko, tapos completely different yung bubukas na pinto. In my case, so nakuha ko yung PhD, tapos may mga external circumstances talaga na minsan mangyayari lang talaga siya, combination of different factors. Tapos iwan ko ng mahal mo, tapos nangyari yung terrorist attack dito sa neighborhood sa Christchurch, pinatay yung mga kapitbahay namin. At the same time, nagsusulat ako ng PhD proposal. So lang yung sabay-sabay sila nangyari. O kaya, na-approve yung ethics form ko, kaya lang pumutok yung taal. Tapos, may bagyo din noon the previous week, so inasikaso namin yun. Tapos, mag-field work na ako. Kaya lang nag-COVID, so nagbago na naman yung research design. So may mga factor na gano'n na it boils down to my point na yung I had to ask myself, kung wala akong PhD, sino ako? So basically, I had to reassure myself ano yung life ko outside of the PhD too, and what are those relationships that with or without the PhD, nandun ako in that set of interrelationships that could still serve as my home even away from home. Yun lang.
The other speakers?
Ako, may onti lang ako. When it comes to like balancing life and the PhD, I think pinaka-important, ang tendency kasi sa mga PhD candidates, what is asked for PhD candidates is actually generate new knowledge that is not known. That's why it's a thesis defense. That's why it's a PhD defense. Kasi you're defending a new idea sa mga experts of that field. Now, mabigat yung thought. And ang pinaka-nakapansin ko with PhD candidates, yung tendency maging very perfectionist. But we have to realize na we are not our research, or like there is no such thing as a perfect research. There will always be limitations to it. And honestly, a done research is better than a perfect research because there's no such thing as a perfect research. So feeling ko, yun yung nakikita ko na parang may tendency nga na magtago sa lab or mag-nitpick ng words, let's say for journal. Pero we have to understand kung sa trabaho work never ends, here research never ends. So you have to really emphasize that you are not your research, you are you. Understand how you work, understand what makes you happy. So I guess yun lang naman yung gusto kong sabihin.
All right. So there are other interesting questions, but unfortunately, the Q&A session is now over. The chat box is still open for our panelists, so you can reply to your questions via chat. So now let's take a quick 5-minute break before we proceed to the next set of speakers. So stretch out, hydrate, and let's prevent that Zoom fatigue. See you in 5.
Okay, welcome back everyone. Nandiyan pa ba kayo? We understand na webinars can be draining and overwhelming. So that's why we introduced our little 5-minute break. So okay pa ba kayo? Buhay pa ba kayo? And can I see a thumbs up? Nandito pa lahat. Siyempre, hindi ko makita kasi nasa akin yung slides. So anyway, let's move on to our next batch of speakers from Europe and America. So we have Irene, Jules, Rommel, and May. So dito naman tayo dito sa part na to. Okay. Our next speaker, si Irene, is someone I've worked with for the longest time. Irene is a postdoctoral researcher at the Northwestern University, but she finished her PhD in climatology at the University of Potsdam, Germany, under the Germany Academic Exchange DAAD research grant. From attending painting classes, visiting art museums, and getting one of her paintings exhibited in the Vargas Museum, Irene admits that she wanted to be an artist as a kid. She initially wanted to apply to the high school for the arts, but her creative side took a pause when she decided to pursue science. However, science did allow her to pursue a different kind of creativity, especially in problem solving. Working with radar images, colorful and powerful representations of real-world phenomena, Irene learned to appreciate and see colors in numbers. Okay, next is we have Jules Alejandre, also a Science Spot Chat PH co-founder. Jules is currently a PhD candidate in built environment and a deputy postgraduate research representative in Glasgow, Caledonian University under the Scottish Government Hydronation Scholars Program. A licensed nutritionist dietitian specializing in health policy, promotion, and communication, Jules has a huge interest in planetary health, behavior change, implementation science, and mixed methods research. During his free time, Jules co-organizes activities for various volunteering organizations, such as this one, Science Chat PH, and sings at the university choir. In his spare time, Jules likes to rewatch funny Netflix series, play board games, hike, swim, and cook. Next is Rommel. So Rommel is an instructor in the Division of Biological Sciences, College of Arts and Sciences, University of the Philippines, Miagao, Iloilo, Philippines. He is currently taking up a PhD in virology in the MRC Center for Virus Research in University of Glasgow, UK, under the DOST-Newton PhD scholarship. After finishing an MSc in molecular medicine at the St. Luke's College of Medicine, WHQM, Rommel decided to pursue a PhD to not only further his academic career, but also to learn transferable skills that will hopefully be relevant to our country. When not doing research, he appreciates design and does freelance layout and graphics for print and digital campaigns. And finally, for our last speaker, we have May Mercado, another one of our Science Chat page co-founders. Promise, hindi kami nauubusan ng speakers. Kaya, May is taking up her PhD in crop sciences in the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign under the Research Assistantship and Departmental Fellowship Awards. So under the William and Nancy Ambrose Fellowship and Frale, I hope I pronounce this correctly, Frale Borlaug Fellowship. A licensed agriculturist, May is currently working on the photosynthesis of different C3 and C4 grass species, studying regulatory cues that could push evolution from one of our photosynthetic type to another. A lover of sunshine and photosynthesis, May also worked at the C4 Rice Center of the International Rice Research Institute, which aims to improve rice photosynthesis. May loves doing brush pen and digital calligraphy, and you can follow her amazing work at Letterings by May on Instagram. Okay, so let's get started. Irene, ready ka na ba?
Yes. So let
All
me just
right.
share my screen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, can you see the screen?
Ayan, okay na.
Okay, so good morning or good evening sa inyo. I'm Irene. I'm currently a postdoc here in Northwestern University sa US. Before I got here, of course, I finished my PhD first under the DAAD scholarship. So this is what my talk is going to be about. It's about the DAAD scholarship and my kind of journey towards getting that scholarship. So the first step for getting a scholarship is gathering information. So that's what we are all here for, and listening to the other speakers, we want to gather information. And then second would be, once we know all the requirements that we need, we prepare the requirements and then submit the application. And then we wait for the results. And once you get accepted, then you need to do all the pre-departure stuff. And then you start the PhD. So the DAAD is a grant-giving body in Germany. So it's not just giving like one type of scholarship, it gives many kinds of scholarships. And to get all the information that you might need for that, I would direct you to the website. So I'm just going to give like a short walkthrough of the website. So all the information is here. It's in daad.de. So yung /en is for the English version of the website, because if you just type daad.de, it gives you, or it directs you to the German version. And if that happens, just click on this en so that it will show you the English version of the website. And to look for the different scholarships that they offer, you can mouse over this part, and it will show you the different links for different kinds of information. And to get to the list of the scholarship that they offer, click on the scholarship database. And it will lead you to the database of the scholarships that they offer. And as of the other day, they had 188 scholarship options for different kinds. There are master's scholarship, there are short-term grants, there are also PhD doctoral scholarships. But if you want to refine your selection and find the one that that would fit you the most, then you can apply these filters. So since during my time, I was looking for a PhD scholarship, I selected programs for PhD, country of origin, subject, and your intention. What do you want to get after this? And after applying those filters, it gave me 6 options. So for my particular case, I applied for this one, but there are also other options, like if you just want like a 1-year grant, or if you want to be binationally supervised. I think BA has that, not from the AAD, but he is under a similar program. But anyway, for my case, I did this research grants doctoral programs in Germany. And if you click on that, it will give you all the information on this page. But since there's a lot and there are many tabs, I summarized it. So what is the eligibility? Who can apply? Anyone with a master's degree. So you have to have a master's degree first. And what can be funded? What will you do when you get the scholarship? So this is for a PhD program, so doctoral programs at a German university. So it can be in a university, or it can be in a non-university research institute in Germany. And there are 2 kinds of projects or kind of path that you can go through. One would be this is what I did, the individual projects. So with this one, you're going to work individually. It's your own project, and you're going to work under the supervision of your PhD advisor. And the other option is participating in a structured PhD program. So the difference here is that the structured PhD program, the university has a program, and they have already developed the project, the objectives of their project, what they want to do with it. So you don't have to think or you don't have to develop your own project. You just need to think what you can do for that. And another difference is that in the individual projects, you're on your own, but when in a structured PhD program, you have like a cohort, you have your batchmates. The duration of the funding. So initially, they will award it to you for 1 year. And then you have for a maximum of 4 years. So every year you have to extend, you have to apply for an extension of the scholarship. It's not too hard. You do need to submit an
2
end of
minutes
the year
left.
report for that. But yeah, and then what do you get? If you're a master's student, you get 861 euros. And if you're a doctoral candidate, you get 1,200 euros. And roughly that's about 69,000 pesos, which may sound like a lot, but in Philippine pesos, but it's really not much in euros. But it's livable. You can survive. In my time, I was only getting 1,000 euros, so they recently increased it, but I was able to survive in 1,000 euros. Then you get insurance, you get travel allowance, you get a research allowance. And so what are the documents you need for the DAAD application? First, you need to fill out the online application form. Then you need to submit your CV and your list of publications if you have them already. And this is the most important thing. You need to submit an extensive research proposal, which would contain like all the things, all the kinds of research that you want to do, what kinds of papers do you want to publish, and when. So it's an extensive research proposal, and also it should include a description of your previous work so that the people who will decide if they will give you a scholarship can see if what you're proposing actually matches what you are able to do. Next would be the degree certificate indicating the final grade. So in our case, this is the TCG. It doesn't have to be the complete TCG because it could be that when you're applying for the PhD program, you're still not finished with your master's, as in my case. So what I did was just I submitted a partial TCG. Kung ano lang yung grades ko up until that point na nag-a-apply ako. And then later on, you can just submit the complete one once you do finish your master's. And then another important thing is a letter confirming supervision by a university teacher in Germany. So you have to have like a contact already in Germany. And hindi kailangan na parang kilala mo na siya before. As what the previous speakers have said, you can also contact them, approach them, and ask like, oh, do you have any openings, or do you have any would you accept students? And once you have like a supervisor that is willing to accept a student, then you submit a letter from them dito sa DAAD. Or if you want to go through the structured PhD program route, you can you should also submit a letter of admission to that program and proof of existing contact. So these will, of course, go together. And then other documents, like if you were employed in between your bachelor's and your master's, you can also submit the employment certificate, to show that like what you were doing in between those times, and other documents that could support your application. And this is another thing they wanted to, because it's a German-speaking country. They want to know your knowledge of German or English. So usually it's the TOEFL. In my case, this is the tip. If your university offers a certificate of English as a medium of instruction, so sa UP meron sila nun, yun yung sinubmit ko. So I was able to skip having to take the TOEFL because it's super expensive. So if your university offers something like that, you might be able to just submit that instead of the TOEFL. Things that are good to know about the DAAD scholarship. So DAAD scholarship is a contract. So after me saying all the nice things that you will get, these are some things that are maybe not so nice, but it is good to know. So DAAD scholarship is a contract. You must finish the entire program. you cannot leave in between. Otherwise, you would have to pay back everything, all the 1,200 euros per month plus interest. So it is like kind of an uncomfortable thought in the middle if like I don't want to do this anymore, and then you remember all the money that you have to pay, and then like, okay, I must finish this. And in Germany, they are very bureaucratic, so it's paperworks galore. So don't be discouraged by all the paperwork you need to do. It's just what they do. And learning German is very helpful. Even though within the university, most of the people speak English anyway. So if you're just like, your life is just within the university, you can survive without learning German. But once you want to kind of expand your world and, you know, communicate with people better in the supermarket or in the public transportation, then learning German is very helpful. So just to kind of summarize and give more information about the other stuff. So first will be gathering information. This is the website, and maybe talk to other people in the Science Chat PH. Then you prepare your requirements, write proposal, find a supervisor, and then you submit your application. And while waiting for the results, that's when you can continue doing and finishing your MS degree. So in my case, ganun yung ginawa ko. I submitted, I wasn't finished yet, and then I just finished like a month before I had to leave for the PhD. There will be an interview if you are shortlisted. And then, okay, once you get accepted, you should definitely celebrate, because that's a good thing. And then you have to do all the pre-departure stuff. Like you do the medical checkup, you apply for the visa, you prepare your pocket money, you secure your housing. So hanap na kayo ng tutuluyan sa Germany kasi matagal yung process nun. And also some notes. So I think this is also an important thing to know. All the expenses that the DAAD will give you is in a reimbursement style. So kayo muna yung maglalabas nung pera, and it can be quite magastos. So like the medical checkup, they only accept medical results from accredited clinics, and hindi onti lang yung mga accredited clinics na yon. So the one that I went to, you have to pay 10,000 pesos for the medical, which is a lot. Then the visa costs about like 3,600, and then the flight is also expensive. And I would suggest to have a pocket money of 1 month worth of expenses when you get there, kasi the stipend that they will give you will arrive at the end of the month. So pagdating nyo doon, wala pa yung pera galing sa kanila, you still have to pay for everything using your money. So it's better to have pocket money. And if you are going to take the TOEFL, it's also, I think, about 10,000 pesos. So tama yung sinabi ni Ethel earlier. It's nice to have a financial safety net because of all these expenses, which you will get back once the DAAD pays you, but you have to pay for it first. And then once you get to Germany, then you do all the things like you start a bank account, you apply for residence permit, and then you find friends. But wait, there's more. So I talked about the DAAD scholarship, but what if you want to not go through the DAAD, but you want to go directly and find, like, as someone mentioned earlier, some PhDs are jobs. So there is this website. This is for like topics under atmospheric science or meteorology or hydrology, and sometimes even oceanography. So this is not DAAD anymore, but this is just, I would just like to share this because this was how I found my current job here in the US. So this website lists, this is like a bulletin board for jobs. And they also post different PhD positions. And you can go through it, look at the requirements that they need, but still the process is the same. You have to submit your forms and so on. But this is a very useful website to look for jobs, not just PhD, but also if you want to look for a postdoc position, they also have masters. I believe, yeah, they also have master's positions here. I think wala lang dito sa screenshot ko, but yeah. So this is where I found my current job. I highly recommend this site. But to summarize everything again, this is the process. And if you would like to contact me for further questions, here are my details. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Irene. Maganda na nabanggit ni Irene yung difference between individual projects and structured PhD programs. Because I think one of the fears of our MS graduates is ano yung i-research ko. And if hindi ka sure, you can always check out the structured PhD programs and then yung mailing list nga na pinakita ni Irene. Kasi nga, baka meron ng ready question and they're just looking for a researcher. Okay, thanks. Okay, from Germany, now we go to Scotland. Hello, Jules.
Hi, let me just
Hi.
share my screen.
Thank you.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can see your screen now.
Right. Okay. So hello everyone. My name is Jules. I'm going to talk about my PhD experience here in Scotland. At some point, maybe in our lives, we have encountered a question that does not let us sleep. Yung mga tanong na hindi tayo makatulog. And for most of us, we tend to look for ways to answer these questions. And some would consider doing a PhD to answer these questions. And most of the times, finding answer to our question is very challenging. In the same way as finding for a PhD opportunity. And for some of us, PhD fishing, as I would like to call it, entails a lot of pressure and uncertainties, like diving in a deep blue ocean. So now let me navigate you quickly in one of the ways where you can answer some of your questions. But before that, I would like to talk about about myself. So I am a public health practitioner who grew up in a disaster-prone area in Bicol region in the Philippines. So growing up, I have witnessed how natural hazards compromise our quality of life, especially when there is a typhoon or a volcanic eruption in our area. Probably the most unforgettable typhoons that I've encountered are typhoons Reming and Andoy, which really engulfed our house in Bicol. So I also grew up hating medicines despite being sickly when I was a kid. So I would, whenever my parents asked me to drink medicine, I would throw it away because I really don't like drinking medicines. But this not hinder me to do the things that I love, such as swimming and sometimes surfing, or simply just exploring the outdoors. I also love doing volunteering work that involve the youth, as well as the health and environment sectors. So in 2017, I was fortunate enough to study my master's in the UK through Achieving Grant. Then I went back briefly to the Philippines for a year, where I worked as a coordinator for nutrition in emergencies, where every day I receive information about disaster-induced mortality in the Philippines. So every day I have a tally of kung ilang mga tao ang namatay dahil sa measles or dahil may bagyo. So yun yung mga nakukuha ko information every day when I was working in the Philippines after my master's. So in 2017, I can say that opportunity was one of the most pivotal moments in my life. It changed how I see healthcare, because for the longest time, I did not realize how the healthcare sector badly contributes to environmental degradation and climate change, where I experienced kung gaano siya kalala because of my experience when I was a teenager or when I was a kid. I also did not realize that the environment itself actually has a way of healing people, especially those who are experiencing mental health problems. So all this background, all this interest and experiences created a question inside me that needs to be answered. So ito yung question na paggabi hindi ako makatulog because I want this question to be answered. And at the same time, it shifted my paradigm on how I question the world and how I want this question to be answered. So as humans, sabi nga ni David, may positivist, may interpretivist. So as humans, we have different belief systems and paradigms that fuel us on how we see, question, and create answers about the world. So some of us are positivists, some are interpretivists, and some are pragmatists. But me, I'm more of a dialectic person. So I believe that questions and systems around us can be answered and improved using combinations and interactions of different paradigms and methodologies. So maybe you're asking me, why am I putting a lot of time on this slide? Why am I telling this story? I am telling this story because these kinds of stories help you navigate and approach your research as a PhD student. Etong backgrounds nito, yung interest nyo sa buhay, yung mga experiences nyo, these stories solidify your voice, which is very, very important when you're doing a PhD. Because when you're defending your thesis, what I've heard from my seniors in my office, what they want to hear what they want to know or what they want to hear when you're defending your research is your voice. What is your voice? Ano ba yung stand mo with the question, with your research question? And it's very, very important in your thesis. So now when I was applying for a PhD, and up until now that I'm already doing a PhD, I feel like I am a bold fish just flowing in a deep blue water. So there are times that I've experienced pressure, isolation, and imposter syndrome, mostly questioning myself if I really deserve to be doing a PhD. So how to be a bold fish? Paano ko ba tinawag yung sarili ko as a bold fish? So ito, fish HD. So a bold fish for me is someone who knows how to find possibilities. And this is one of the things that I did when I was looking for a PhD. I was constantly looking for possibilities where I can answer the question that I have. And this Find a PhD website is very, very helpful, especially if you're looking for structured PhD like what BA mentioned. Yung Find a PhD, they advertise different PhDs around the world, different PhD opportunities, and most of it are structured PhDs, meaning supervisors who are looking for PhD researchers. And in this website, dito ko nakuha or nakita yung PhD ko ngayon. Also, introspect on your emotions, your skills, and interests. So dito papasok yung experience mo sa buhay, yung background mo. Ano ba yung skills na meron ka? Ano ba yung research methodology na you are comfortable of using? Ano ba yung interest? Ano ba yung research question na gusto mong sagutin? So you have to ask within yourself, ano ba ito? Kasi ito yung magiging head start mo or advantage mo when you're applying for a PhD. And then seek help and feedback. It's very, very important to, when you're applying your PhD or even when you're doing a PhD, to ask your friends, seek help sa mga kaibigan mo, and connect to your friends. This GradMap is, I think, a very new organization or a very new community where you can seek help when you want to apply for a PhD program. And H is give time to start and give time to stop. Doing a PhD or applying for a PhD is very, very challenging. So you have to find time na you have to step back for a while, because stepping back could really mean a lot. It could help you rethink of the things that you have to navigate or approach while doing your PhD, or even when you're applying. Kasi when I was applying for a PhD, hindi ko siya ginawa na isahan ng upuan lang. I tried to step back a little para lang magkaroon ako ng fresh thinking about my research question. And head start and hard work and headspace is very important. And lastly, dream big but be very realistic. Now, when I was applying for a PhD, or a few months after my PhD, I was diagnosed with PTSD and moderate depression and perfectionism. So I couldn't say that it's because of my PhD. I think it's because of the experiences that I had when I was a kid or when I was working in the Philippines. And my mental health, I experienced a lot of friction with myself. And one of the things that my therapist advised me actually is to just flow. Flow meaning follow a flexible schedule and health advice. Also listen to your mind and to your body. If you feel that you're burnt out, if you want to sleep, take a nap. If you feel that you want to take a walk while working, after a day of working, just listen to yourself and be very, very compassionate with yourself, and always practice self-care. Also outreach and organize a community. Right now, when we are in a pandemic, it's very, very difficult to organize a community, but we can organize a community even virtually, like we're doing in Science Chat PH. And lastly, wonder and wonder. Well, whilst doing a PhD, during a pandemic, medyo mahirap kasi parang naka-isolate ka and you just there sitting, thinking about your research project, but also it's very important to find time na lumabas or wander around, even dun sa compound ng bahay nyo or sa city nyo kung saan pwedeng lumabas. And then, I think flowing in the deep blue water, like the Hydronation Scholars Program, which is my scholarship right now, helped me to navigate the ocean and swim the waves for my PhD rather than just flowing mindlessly. So one of the key components of the Hydronation Scholarship Program is it has a holistic research and strategic priorities. So naka-anchor siya sa strategic priorities ng Scottish government. And then yung application niya is a yearly open project. So ina-advertise nila yan sa kanilang website. And then one key aspect as well is it's a delivery of a high quality doctoral training program. They give you placements different industries dito sa Scotland, not just in Scotland, but also in other countries. They also provide you summer field course. So every year we have a summer field course where they take us all across Scotland to visit different industries and stakeholders. Also, there are residential trainings. So may mga training din kami on psychom and different trainings about research presentation. They also provide us resources and the university's facilities and funding. So this specific program is only good for Scottish universities, and they provide you full tuition, full stipend, travel and subsistence, and other research fees. And I think one of the things that I really like about this scholarship is the outreach and the partnership and networking with different stakeholders. Kasi it really it provide us an opportunity to dive or to talk with different stakeholders about our research, and it also help us to network with different people. Now, what are the components or the details of those components? So every year they release different research topics. So I think it's 5 or 6 research topics where they advertise in their website. So this year they are looking into water smart cities, integrated land and water management, digital water and the circular economy, and interdisciplinary innovation. So my specific project fall into the interdisciplinary innovation because it is an intersection between the water environment and healthcare. So the application requirements is very, very straightforward. Downloadable application form, English certification, and curriculum vitae, and 2 references. So dun sa downloadable application form, very, very important na section yung scientific interest, because it dun sa section na yun, dun mo dapat i-discuss yung interest mo about the research topic na in-advertise nila. Ano ba yung alam mo about the research topic? It's like writing a 500-word essay about the research topic, about what you know dun sa research topic. And then the timeline, so that for this year, they will be advertising these research topics, yung approved research topics in October 2020. And then the application deadline is on January 8. And then if you're chosen, when you submitted your application, if you're chosen, you will be interviewed by your future supervisors. And for each project, the supervisor will choose one PhD student amongst those who applied. And dun sa lahat ng projects na merong PhD student, those prospective PhD student will be interviewed for parang magkakaroon ng final interview kung saan dun sila mamimili kung sino yung project na pupondohan ng Scottish government. So among, like in my time, there were 12 research projects na in-advertise na merong PhD student, and they only choosing 4 to 7 students. But finally, they only chose, I think, 4 students during my time out of 800 people who applied. And the final decision is in February 2021 for this intake. And then the training, very, very straightforward, na-discuss ko na ito kanina. And then yung funding naman, full tuition fee in a Scottish university, you don't have, if you're an international student, you don't have to fill the gap kasi they will provide the full tuition even if you're an international student. And then yung stipend niya is UKRI based, meaning it changes every year because of the inflation rate. So like for this year, my stipend is around £15,000 for the year, which is like around 80,000 pesos roughly. They also provide you travel and subsistence allowance per annum or per year na pwede mong gamitin if you want to attend conference and stuff like that. And they also provide you research cost, yung cost na gagamitin mo to implement the research. So mine was like around £12,000, and the funding is available for 4 years. And I think I would just like to end this presentation by saying that being triumphant in applying for a PhD, just have to keep on swimming, but we need to try the waters first before diving into it. And triumph is actually achieved if we always try it with an umph. So thank you very much. And if you want to connect, these are my contact details. I'm quite active in Twitter, but you can also send me an email. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Jules. Gusto ko yung tip na dream big, so kaya nga tayo nagpe-PhD, but be realistic. So you listen to your mind and your body and seek help and feedback if you need, and then just keep swimming or don't forget to test the waters. Thank you very much. Okay, so Rommel, you're next.
So, yeah.
Hello.
Hi. So I'll just share my screen for, wait. Share, okay. So could everyone see my screen?
Yes,
Yep. Yeah, so hello, I'm Rommel Hestoveo, a DOST-Newton PhD scholar at the Cole Lab, MRC University of Glasgow, Center for Virus Research here in Scotland. So thank you, first and foremost, to Science Chat PH for the opportunity to share a bit about my PhD experiences, which hopefully you'll find helpful as you start your own PhD journey. So just a brief background about myself. I did an undergraduate degree in public health and a master's in molecular medicine, which eventually led me to pursue a PhD in virology, where I mainly work on host virus interactions of arboviruses such as Zika virus to mosquito cells and how it translates to infections in humans. So the main point of this webinar is, of course, to give a brief orientation about the different scholarship options that us Filipinos have. So one is through the Newton Fund, which offers the DOST-Newton PhD scholarship. And under that project, it is offered by the British Council through the UK government. And the entire program runs in 17 partner countries all over the world. That does not only offer PhD scholarships, but also institutional linkages and researcher grants. So in the Philippines, the program is called Newton Agham Fund in partnership with the DOST and CHED, and offer the Newton PhD scholarship, with its main goal to support, of course, PhD training for Filipinos in the UK, for early career researchers, and of course, build collaboration between the UK and the Philippines, and also develop a pool of UK-trained researchers across different disciplines. So the tuition and bench fees are mainly paid by the British Council, whilst the living allowances is shouldered by DOST or CHED, depending on the cycle that you would like to apply. And if you want to know more information about the British Council and the Newton Fund and other funding opportunities through these organizations, you may scan the QR codes. And so how is it like doing a PhD at Glasgow Uni? So on average, a PhD program takes 4 years in the UK with at least 3 years dedicated for lab work, field work, or data gathering, and the last year, or at least the last 6 months of your program for thesis writing. So within the first 3 years, you're also expected to complete credit courses as part of your research training program by enrolling in different lectures or trainings offered by the university or externally. You can also get credits for presenting in conferences and publications. The good thing about this program or research training program is you can choose the courses that you like or the ones you think you need, maybe learning R or doing microscopy work, or for example, how to utilize social media for science communication. So eventually, the culmination of your PhD program is a thesis viva, which is a closed-door assessment meeting for 3 to 6 hours with your examiners, where they ask questions about your thesis, and that's mainly the entire program in a nutshell. So I've listed the basic requirements for applying to a PhD program at Glasgow Uni, but you can scan the QR code for more details. So my virology training at the CVR initially included a 3-week introductory course, which is mandatory for all new PhD students. It gives you the opportunity to attend lectures by professors and PIs and involves a crash course on the unique techniques in each lab, like mosquito rearing, electron microscopy, 3D tissue culture, and others. And the CVR is one of the biggest groups of scientists and clinicians doing virology in the UK. And there are also other scholarship options for international students through different UK funders like the Medical Research Council or MRC, UKRI, and the Wellcome Trust. So if you want to know more information about the CVR and what work we do, especially our efforts in COVID-19 research, you may scan the QR code on my slide. So how did I end up working with my supervisor? So the very first thing you need to do is to apply for a PhD program before applying for the Newton Scholarship. So initially you need to look for a PhD supervisor, which has been highlighted by a number of speakers before me.
2 minutes left.
So what I did was I used the services of the University's UK website, which is the Student Support Services. So what it does is it's an online form that asks your research interests and academic background. So once you've answered the questions and provided details, Universities UK will send you an email and a short list of supervisors and their affiliations that they think will suit your skills and background. And from there, they can also help you with your PhD application for free. And from the list, I selected a couple of professors and sent out like 5 emails, and also read about their work and their labs, and also about their experiences with doing research. And also eventually it led me to my current supervisor, and who was one of the professors who was very keen on the idea that I had for my PhD project. So eventually that's when we started collaborating on my proposal, and you'll also be needing a support letter from your supervisor for your Newton application. So roughly you also need like a year also to accomplish all documents and also prepare for a Newton application. So for the DOST-Newton application, the schematic briefly summarizes the entire process. So take note that most of the documents are the same, whether you're applying for a PhD program somewhere else or a scholarship from a different organization or funder. So it is always good if you have them prepared in advance. So I've also listed the eligibility criteria. So just to highlight, you must be within 5 years of getting your master's upon application and must be employed as a faculty member, staff, or researcher in a higher education institution in the Philippines, or even an R&D company or institute. This is because your employer or home institution will be required to support you in your academic endeavor in the UK, which will be put into writing through a support letter. So the entire Newton application is done online through the British Council, and you'll again be asked by your academic background, your research plan, as well as a 5-year plan. The same form, online form, will also ask how you'll continue your collaboration with your UK host institution or your supervisor, and how your PhD project will improve social outcomes in the Philippines. After that, the British Council will endorse your application to DOST and check if you have all the necessary documents. So DOST eventually will arrange a panel interview for all the applicants, which questions would often range from your background again, your research project, as well as how did you know about your PhD supervisor. So after the interview, DOST will endorse select applicants to the British Council for their own Newton Fund panel review in the UK. They will go through your PhD project and qualifications again, and after 7 to 8 months of waiting, DOST will send a notice if you've been accepted for the scholarship. So another purpose of this webinar is to give you tips. So part of that is to simply remember TIPS, T-I-P-S. So talk, initiate, prepare, and showcase. Talk to the right people, whether it may be your university officials or immediate boss. Ask if you can pursue higher education and if they have plans for you to further your career. You can also talk to PhD students in the lab or in the lab group that you want to join so that you could have a feel of their research culture, as well as if you have specific questions that you cannot ask your potential PhD supervisor. I is for initiate collaboration early on, because the Newton Fund Scholarship is very keen on doing collaborative work between the UK and the Philippines, not only for doing your PhD, but eventually after you're done. Be proactive, send emails to potential supervisors if they're currently looking for a PhD student, and if what your project or the project that you intend to do is feasible in their lab. You can also ask for input with your proposal, as well as other scholarships offered in their institute, which usually is not advertised to Filipinos. And also P, prepare your documents early. Prepare mentally, because doing a PhD can be tough, and prepare financially, because at first you may need to take exams such as IELTS or TOEFL, and you also need to request documents for applications, which costs a lot of money as well. So you may also need to shoulder your own expenses during the first few months living in a foreign country. And for enjoyment, also prepare by watching travel vlogs, especially if you haven't been to the city or country that you're going to go to, so you can learn about the culture and what to expect. And lastly, showcase your strengths and skills, highlight that in your application, but don't be afraid to ask for help. Doing a PhD is a training. It's a learning process towards doing independent research. So you may be expected to be independent, but there's always something new to learn. So that's it for me. And I'd just like to thank my supervisors as well as my funders. And there's a QR code there if you're interested in talking to my supervisor and like getting in touch for potential collaboration. And thanks for listening. Madamang salamat.
All right, Rommel, maraming salamat din. Maganda na nabanggit nga ni Rommel na it's a two-step process na, tama ba? You apply for the PhD program first before you apply for the scholarship. And I think ganun din yung case nila Adria and David. And if ever na hindi ka matanggap ka sa university pero hindi ka matanggap sa scholarship, you can always look for other grants. Thank you. So we are at last speaker na natin. Hi, May. Are you there?
Hi, yes.
Let's go to the US. Ayan. Thank you.
Okay, let me just share my screen. Yep. Can everybody see my slide?
Yes, we can see your slide.
Okay, so, ayan. Ako ang panghuli, pero it doesn't mean that being the last is being definitely the least. I'm definitely not. Every one of us is equal. So magandang gabi mga ka-Science Chat PH. Tonight I'll be speaking about my PhD application experience. My presentation is entitled Finding the Perfect Match, How to Get an Assistantship Offer in the United States. So to start off, pakilala ko muna yung sarili ko. Ako si May, isa akong lisensyadong agriculturist. I finished my MSc in agronomy at the University of the Philippines, and I am currently a PhD crop science student at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. It took me 2 years, probably more than 50 applications, 90% of which are rejected, before I was able to get a research assistantship at the Studer Lab. So I mentioned assistantship twice. Ano ba yung assistantship? So assistantship is a common way to get into the United States. for PhD. So it is a paid academic employment. Students receive tuition waivers in exchange for 20 hours of work in your chosen field. And you also receive a small stipend or salary. So the stipend and salary is usually enough to cover basic living expenses in the United States. And then there are 3 types of assistantships. You have a teaching assistantship, a research assistantship, and a graduate assistantship. So why did I go for assistantship instead of applying for scholarships and fellowship awards? Number 1, assistantships are not usually restrictive in terms of citizenship and eligibility. And number 2, you get a decent pay or salary in exchange for the research work. So you are doing your PhD and you get paid in exchange. And lastly, while doing your PhD, you can try different things. You can try teaching for a semester, do research on the whole duration of your PhD, and even try doing administrative work habang nag-PhD ka. So you can try different things, especially if you want to venture in the academia for your career path after. So where do you start? So you start by looking at university websites and websites of principal investigators or professors, because sometimes they advertise, we're looking for a research assistant for this and that project. So what do you need to apply for assistantships? So most of these requirements were mentioned by previous presenters. So I will just direct your attention to 3 requirements. The first one is the examination results. US schools usually require GRE, which is an expensive exam to take. But I've been hearing news that for fall 2021 intake, a lot of schools are waiving this requirement. So if you are ready to take on your PhD journey, it might be a good time to apply or start looking at it. You also need to take English proficiency exam. Although there are some schools that exempt Filipinos from taking these tests. One of them is University of Illinois. Kaya din University of Illinois yung first choice ko. And these exams are expensive, so make sure that you'd be able to get your desired score in one go. The next one is the statement of purpose. So for me, this is my favorite part of the application packet, because you can use this to your advantage. You can write your statement of purpose to turn your weakness into strength. For example, you experience a lot of difficulties during your undergrad that made some of your grades low or fail. You can explain your circumstances. In my case, wala akong publication nung nag-apply ako for PhD. So I explained that circumstance to every statement of purpose I made, but I made sure that I also emphasize my research capabilities and experience. Bilang nag-work naman ako sa research, wala nga lang akong publication. Lastly, you need to submit your applications online. Check the university and department websites for deadline. And do take note that application in the US schools require fees. It usually ranges from $40 to $100 US. So medyo expensive siya. So ipon tayo, guys. And then next slide. For me, this is the one thing that I believe makes it easier for people to get into PhD programs. Aside from applying directly to the university, I sent emails to lab groups and professors asking if they can support me through an assistantship. I believe that asking professors and labs can increase the chance of anyone to get accepted into a PhD program. So I sent emails to professors asking if they are willing to support a PhD student, particularly an international PhD student, for an assistantship. And then I eventually got interviewed by some of these professors and eventually got accepted for a PhD program. So next, when all of those things are done, paano ba mag-intay? So number 1, keep going with your daily routine. Huwag nating itigil yung buhay natin habang nag-iintay tayo sa PhD application natin. Number 2, don't go to the website every day to check the results. Learn from my mistake. And lastly, if you get rejected, reflect on the application experience, but don't dwell too much about it. Going back to my presentation title, think of getting an assistantship as finding a perfect match. So the rejection could be more of you not being the perfect fit for the research or the professor you're applying to. It could be because they're looking for bioinformaticians, pero molecular biologist ka na wala masyadong experience sa bioinformatics, and they want someone na sobrang skilled. It could also be because of some funding restrictions, because international PhD students pay tuitions higher and they require higher higher fees in general. So learn from the experience, take the good, improve the bad, but don't dwell too much about it. Being rejected from a PhD application doesn't necessarily mean na hindi ka capable mag-PhD. And then extra tips. Number one, ask yourself, handa ka na ba? PhD is a long journey and it requires a strong commitment. Number two, kamusta ang savings mo? Application fees and test fees, particularly in the United States, are expensive. And if you get accepted, the paperwork that will come after that will also be expensive. Number three, find a good mentor. As I always say, your advisor can make or break you. So be sure to find a mentor that matches your work ethics. And lastly, maging sigurista, the more entries you send, the more chances of winning. So there's no shame in submitting applications to a lot of schools, a lot of universities, a lot of scholarships, as long as kapag natanggap ka, kaya mong panindigan yung pag-apply mo dun sa PhD program na yon. And then touching a bit on PhD and COVID. So from patiently hoping for a degree, it became in the middle of a pandemic, but still hoping to get a degree. PhD and life in general these days became more isolating for everyone. So this is where I learned how to prioritize my mental health a lot. So I started doing more brush pen calligraphy works. I go out on walks, take photos, and take note when I go out on walks, it's a very socially distanced walk, no talking to other people, wearing masks, etc. So it's very important to prioritize overall wellness. Katulad nga ng nasabi din ni David sa kanyang presentation earlier. So let's not forget ourselves while we are in our PhD programs and even in these trying times of a pandemic. So these are useful links that I will post on the chat box later. So maybe these could help you in some of the questions that you have that are more specific. And with that, I am ending my presentation. Maraming salamat. I hope you learned something from my PhD application experience. And lastly, mabuhay ang mga siyentipikong Pilipino. Thank you.
Maraming salamat din, May, for giving us an insight tungkol sa assistantship versus scholarship versus award. Magkakaiba pala yun. And in the US, tama ba, there's an option? Sa US lang ba yan or
I
you're
believe
not sure?
Canada also medyo similar yung application process, except sa Canada, hindi sila nagre-require ng GRE. So,
Right. And one key takeaway from May's talk is being rejected does not mean hindi ka ready mag-PhD. So, hanggat kaya, hanggat afford, try lang. So anyway, so for the next part na ng ating session, okay, wait, ako na yata mag-share. Ayan. Q&A, yay! Pierce, are you there?
Yes, BA. Okay, so thank you so much to our speakers. Very insightful stories and tips. At sana po ay may natutunan kayong lahat. So we'll be hosting another quick Q&A session for around 5 minutes. So the first question is, let's choose, okay, this one. Maybe we can address this question to the second set of speakers. How do you make sure or get an idea that the professor you wish to work with and those you send emails to are actually good, quote unquote, mentors? Good being mentors who are not slave drivers, kind and supportive of your career, etc. So, who would like to answer that first?
Sige, I can go first. For me, one big tip is kapag umabot kayo dun sa interview stage with the advisor, make sure to ask questions about their work ethics, like micromanager ba sila, they would like to give you a lot of independence, or sila ba yung tipo ng advisor na everyday nag-check anong ng status ng research mo. Also for me, may kilala ako dun sa lab kung saan ako currently kabilang, and I asked the person personally anong experience sa professor, like is he good, is he not so good, so that will help contacting people in the lab as well.
Okay.
Gusto ko
Other speakers?
Yeah,
Go.
so I would like to add to that. tama si May, you should also, so aside from asking the supervisor what kind of supervising style yung ginagawa nila, you can also reach out to their students. So hanapin nyo if they have like a lab website or a lab page. You can see the other students that you might be working with in the future who are also working under that supervisor, and you can ask them like, paano ba si Dr. Ganyan mag-supervise? Like, katulad nga yung sabi ni May, tanong ba siya ng tanong every day kung ano nang ginagawa mo, or what if I have this personal issue that I have to face or I have to deal with while doing the PhD. For example, if something happens to your health, or if something happens to your family na malayo sa'yo, like how would they deal with that? Will they tell you to just suck it up and then continue your work, or will they offer support, not just research support, but also a personal emotional support? So ask their students.
Yeah. So just to add, actually yung sa supervisor ko nga, yung sign na nalaman ko na okay siya with regards to the students, kasi siya mismo yung nag-initiate na, do you want a Skype meeting with my PhD students? So dun pa lang, you can say that perhaps indeed he manages people well, or he or she manages people well, and also take that opportunity to actually talk to the people that he's working with, who, if he gives a chance, or he or she gives a chance. So yeah.
Other speakers, maybe you want to add more?
I can add something, Pierce. I think I'm one of the people who was not able to contact initially a supervisor because my PhD project is a structured PhD project. Ibig sabihin, I already have a supervisor and I can choose different supervisor. And it's quite difficult kasi nandun na siya and I can't choose supervisors anymore. But I think what I did was, during our first meeting, I set out some, I told her kung ano yung work ethics ko, and I asked her as well. So I think I just opened, I tried to have an open communication, and whenever there's a friction, or I feel like there's a friction, I would tend to step back muna after the situation and think about it. And after thinking about it for a couple of days or maybe a couple of hours, I would go to her office and or maybe send her an email talking to her about what happened. So it's something that you can do if wala kayong chance to talk to your supervisor initially before applying. Be very open when you're already in the job or at work.
Other speakers? Okay. So, last question. In terms of publication, so do you need to be the first author in the list for publication, or any publication? Or will any publication from a research team you were part of be considered for PhD applications?
Right. Yeah. So in my case, I actually didn't have any publication before applying for my PhD, so which was totally fine. So I guess it matters depending also on the institution you're applying to and also the supervisor. But for my case, I didn't have any publication prior to starting my PhD.
I have something to add too. So I think the reason why they are looking for a list of publications is that they want to see how much work you've done in terms of the research topic. So if you don't have any publications, that's also fine. If you can show anything other than a publication to show your work, for example, if you've written reports, for other things, if you've written reports, or if you've written like some other documents detailing or documenting your work that you've done, for if for example you did like a work for an NGO, or if you did like a field work for something, and yung output nun ay isang like report or document, you can also maybe show that. Kasi ang gusto lang naman talaga nila, they want to see how like your writing skills, your research skills. So it's not just a publication yung magsasabi nun.
Just to add dun sa sinabi ni Irene, I agree with what Irene said. I don't have any publications and I applied for PhD. I have preprints of my MSc dissertation pero hindi pa siya published that time. And what I did, I remember I wrote in my CV all the reports that I wrote when I was working for a government agency in the Philippines. Yung mga research na kinoordinate ko, mga reports na kahit the strategic plans ng agency namin sinulat ko just to show them the things that I've written about the topic then about health and nutrition and whatnot. I also included yung mga, even my essays that I wrote for my MSc, for my master's, I included it in my CV just to show them how yung writing skills ko. So it's very important. If you don't have publication, I think it's okay just to just show them your any evidence of your writing skills.
Yeah, adding on to that, if you took GRE or IELTS, there's a part there about writing tests. And sometimes some professors use that as marker if you can write well. Kasi merong score siya na equivalent. So I applied to a program before na the professor was specifically asking for a GRE score of 5 sa writing part. And sometimes it gives them an idea how well you can write as well, although that's not a very solid proof because sometimes some professors would still prefer publications or at least a scientific write-up that you've made to prove that you can write science papers well.
Other speakers? So if no one wants to add, that ends our Q&A portion. Unfortunately, we can't answer all of your questions, so you can contact all of our speakers either via their social media profiles or email provided in the speaker profiles. So now I hand over the mic to Aiko, another co-founder of Science.ph, to wrap up our session. Aiko?
Yes, hello? Hello? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Aiko.
Okay. So, everyone, thank you for coming to our Prospectus session, PhD edition. Thank you to the speakers and the engaging audience for joining us for our third Science Hangout session. I hope this was, fourth Science Hangout session. I hope this was insightful and eye-opening. So to our participants, wag niyong kakalimutang sagutan ng aming maikling evaluation form. So that's bit.ly/prospectus-phd evaluate. So please go to that link. And what else? We also have this quick post-grad survey, which is bit.ly/grad-studies-ph. Is that correct? And lastly, don't forget to follow up. Okay, wait. So we also have other activities in Science Chat PH. We have this Science Hangouts, which you are watching right now. We have also Follow Friday. So we post a tweet for scientists to follow each other on Twitter. We also have Science Saya, where we make short science Twitter games. So mag-tweet kami ng questions that you can answer and find out the answers to it the next day. And on the pipeline is Ask a Scientist and Faces of Science that will highlight or spotlight our Filipino scientists on Twitter. So don't forget to follow us on Twitter, which is at ScienceChatPH, and use the hashtag ScienceChatPH to tweet anything that you want to share to the Filipino science community. You can also follow our YouTube channel, ScienceChatPH, and also on our Facebook page. So hanapin nyo lang kami. We are everywhere, but we're more active on Twitter. And ayun, pabalik na lang sa slide for the evaluation form. So yan, please go there, answer them, and para rin malaman namin kung ano yung mga feedback ninyo, ano yung mga pwede namin gawin in the future. And ayun. Thank you everyone. Salamat sa pag-join sa aming Science Hangouts. Susunod ulit.
Salamat.
Salamat.
Thank you, speakers.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Kontakin nyo lang kami. Di pala ako speaker.
PA, meron
Yes,
akong
po.
private message sa'yo.
Di ko nga mahanap ang haba eh. Papasend
Sorry.
ulit.
And then parang sabi ko lang, let's have another photo with all the speakers kasi wala si
Okay.
Irene.
Sige, sige.
Sure.
Maybe
After
we
we-
can stop recording and the live stream on YouTube.
After